Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Colin, you're watching Bug Out Overland, and I just wrapped my overland-built 3rd gen Tacoma, and on this episode I'm going to show you how I did it. Let's get into it. For those of you that know me, you know that I've been dying to wrap my truck for the longest time and really tie in and complete that bug out look that I've been going for. My truck is riddled with pinstripes, paint chips, scratches, and marks that aren't really visible to viewers on social media, but definitely are in person. And instead of wasting money to just get the truck's paint corrected and then get scratched up on the trails again, I figured I'd go ahead and be a little cheaper about it and get it wrapped instead. Getting your vehicle professionally wrapped can range anywhere in price from $2,000 to $6,000 depending on the vehicle, who's doing it, and the wrap itself. I've done everything to this truck myself, from maintenance to modifications, aside from welding, with a little bit of a helping hand here and there, which means naturally I was going to try to wrap the truck myself as well. I finally accomplished that goal, and today I'm going to share with you how exactly I did that. I'm going to break down the costs, the time it took to do it, mistakes I made along the way, and of course things I could have done differently. Let me preface this by saying this is not a how-to tutorial with how to wrap your vehicle. I am not a professional. I'm just an average guy looking at gaining a new skill and sharing my experience with the rest of the world. So if you do plan on wrapping your own vehicle by yourself, DIY style like me, do it at your own risk. So I started the day at 7 a.m. and began the process of prep work. This meant walking around the vehicle and taking lots of pictures, like 360-degree pictures and detail shots. This would work as a reference for later when I would start putting everything back together, or needed an idea of what body lines I was working with underneath the wrap. Next, I began taking the truck apart. This will vary from person to person depending on how much stuff you have on your vehicle, but it's not always necessary. I wanted to be as thorough as possible, so I decided to remove everything. Almost everything. This was a time-consuming process, but surprisingly, it didn't take me as long as I thought it would. Fortunately for day one, I had my buddy Michael available to lend me a hand. We removed the tent, the smart cap, the bumpers, the roof rack, the taillights, and all the other accessories. The next step of prepping is getting the vehicle cleaned up and washed. I started with spraying off the truck with a pressure wash to knock off any dirt debris that still remained from my previous off-roading trips. After that, I got to washing. It's important to get the truck nice and clean to allow for the wrap to have a good bond to the paint. I didn't use any sort of special chemical or wax after the fact, just a normal wash, because I didn't want there to be any lingering chemical or something that could prevent the wrap from properly adhering to the truck's paint. The climate wasn't ideal for washing the truck. It was super bright and pretty hot, which meant that it would dry almost instantly after it was sprayed and scrubbed. Not that big of a deal, it just made it take a little bit longer. Once the wash was complete, we removed the roof rack as I didn't want any water getting into the cab while washing. Once the rack was off, we came back and cleaned the spots that were missed. I wanted to start with the roof because it would be a good warm-up for the trial that was to come. This would allow me to get a good feel for how the wrap would interact applying it to the truck, and any blemishes that were made would be hidden by the roof rack, accessories, and tent, and not be as noticeable. Although the truck was washed, I still wanted to make sure that there was a good bond between the wrap and the paint, so before I laid down any wrap, I would wipe the entire panel I was about to wrap in rubbing alcohol to remove any potential contaminants. The roof took about 45 minutes to do. When doing a larger section like this, it helps to have a helping hand, but it isn't really necessary. I concentrated on the driver's side and Michael on the passenger side. My side, of course, had a few more wrinkles in it than Michael's side, but I didn't really care because, like I said, it was going to be unseen anyways. After we finished the roof, we moved on to the tailgate, which only really took about 20 minutes to do and wasn't that difficult, even with the lettering. It turned out perfectly, but unfortunately I didn't realize this until it was too late, but we laid the vinyl with the pattern going in the wrong direction, something I would end up fixing later. Next, we completed the hood. The only complication we had with the hood was that the wrap measured approximately 58 inches and the hood was approximately 59 to 60 inches wide. This meant we either have to do it in multiple pieces or try to stretch it with some heat and a lot of pulling, which I did not want to take the chance of doing. We ended up with 3 separate pieces to complete the hood, utilizing the natural body lines and bends in the hood to lay our seams. After laying down the side pieces, we applied some knifeless tape on the sides and laid down the middle piece. We ended up with a perfect looking application where the seams were hardly noticeable, concealed by the curves of the hood. At this point, Michael had to leave, which meant I had to fend for myself. I finished off the night wrapping the small portions of the bumper under the headlights and the driver's side bed, ending the night around 7 p.m. The next day started around 8 a.m. and it would be spent by myself wrapping the entire day. I decided to take a different approach on my technique when applying the wrap in large pieces. The day before, when I was attempting the rear quarter panel of the bed, I was trying to remove the paper all at once and use a second set of hands to go lay it on. This time, I decided to utilize the magnets I had. I would line up the wrap, place the magnets at the center point running left to right, fold the wrap down, and begin peeling the backing off. Once I got the backing peeled off the upper half, I would cut off the backing and fold up the wrap and secure it to the top. Then, I would remove the magnets, remove the rest of the backing on the bottom half, and apply the wrap on the lower portion. I do not know if this is considered the proper technique, but as a beginner working by myself, this is what seemed to work best for me. After completing all of the quarter panels, I moved to the doors. I wanted to make sure I was thorough here, and this meant removing all of the door handles. In order to do this, I had to remove all of the interior door panels, something which I'd never done before. Needless to say, I broke a few plastic clips along the way, as always. Once the interior panels were off, I was able to remove the door handles. The glass had to be up in order to remove them, but down to make it easier when wrapping the doors. Therefore, I would have to reconnect every switch panel to roll the windows down for wrapping, then back up again after to reinstall everything. It would end up taking me the rest of the day to wrap the doors, the handles, and put the doors back together. I ended up finishing around 2 a.m. So panel by panel, inch by inch, the truck slowly started to come together. Day 1, I completed the hood, roof, tailgate, 1 rear quarter panel, and small sections under the headlights. Day 2, I completed the 2 front quarter panels, the remaining rear quarter panel, the doors, and the door handles. All that remained now was the part of the bumper surrounding the grille, the RSI smart cap, and the side view mirrors, which I would begin on day 3. This day started a bit later due to my lack of sleep from the night before. I began with wrapping the smart cap. This turned out to be the most difficult part for me since there were so many body line changes and I was running short on materials, leaving me no choice but to sort of piece it together. If there's any part of the truck I would go back and fix, it would be this. I ran out of knifeless tape, I was running low on vinyl, and above all else, I was beginning to run out of patience. So I mustered through and completed the cap and moved on to the mirror pieces. I found these pieces to be surprisingly easier than what I expected. However, here, I think I should have used 2 pieces with these because I felt I may have overstretched the application, meaning it could lead to an issue with it peeling back later down the road. Fortunately, I had a lot of scrap to work with getting to the bezel around the grill piece. Here, I was able to piece it into 4 pieces, following the natural body lines once again, and it's not noticeable in the slightest. With the last piece being wrapped, I would spend the next 5 hours putting the truck back together, leaving me with the final results. All right, so first let's go ahead and talk about the cost of everything. The media that I bought was Avery Dennison. I bought it from Metro Restyling, and I bought the largest size that they had available, which was 59-inch by 75 feet. That cost me $1,362. Out of all of the tools that I own, a heat gun was not one of them. So I bought one of those for about $125. I also purchased some accessories from Metro Restyling as well, including some squeegees, X-Acto knife, wrapping gloves, knifeless tape, and a couple other stuff, and that ran me about $122. I also bought some car wrap magnets from Amazon for $25, and lastly, I also bought some miscellaneous stuff like microfiber rags and isopropyl rubbing alcohol, and that was another $20 or so. Meaning altogether, I spent around $1,654 for this entire project. Alright, as for time, it took me all of 3 days to complete this project from start to finish, starting early on a Thursday morning and ending very late on a Saturday night / Sunday morning. This included everything from the prep work, disassembling the truck, wrapping the truck, and then reassembling everything back onto the truck. And it was about 42 hours, something like that, over the course of those 3 days. All right, now let's go ahead and discuss a few tips that I would have for you if you plan on taking on a project like this as well. Number one, take your time. The amount of patience required for me to complete this job was absolutely ridiculous. It was incredibly demanding, and that's difficult for me. This is the most difficult project I've ever taken on. That was difficult for me because I am not the most patient person in the world when it comes to stuff like this. And if you think you're moving slow enough, you're probably not, so double down and work even slower. I made many mistakes along the way, many of which probably could have been avoided if I just took more time to do it. Number two, take the time to go ahead and remove everything off of your vehicle. Headlights, taillights, door handle, tailgate if you got one, accessories, everything. Just go ahead and remove everything off the vehicle and strip it down. This will allow for a more thorough job and a cleaner look. Number three, and this kind of segues along with number two, goes along with number two. If you are wrapping a truck, go ahead and take the time to remove the bed. Of all the stuff that I removed from my truck, which is pretty much everything, the bed was the one thing I did not remove. And looking back now, I wish I would have removed the bed, because that little gap between where the bed is and where the cab is was very difficult to work around. You've only got that much space to work around, and so when it came to where I was wrapping the rear side of the cab, trying to fold that wrap inside of that gap just was not working for me, and it ended up looking incredibly wrinkled and just not good along that line. So learn from my mistakes and go ahead and remove the bed so that way you can work fully around the cab as well. Might take a couple of guys, a few helping hands to unbolt everything and lift the cab up, or lift the bed up, but it's going to be worth it in the end. That's the biggest thing I wish I would have done looking back on it. Number four, if you have an extra set of hands available, don't be afraid to ask somebody for help if they're willing to help you. Fortunately for me, I had Michael help me out on day one. Having an extra set of hands on day 2 or day 3 would have been nice as well, but I managed to get it done by myself. But it would have been a lot easier if I had someone else there to help me as well along the entire way from start to finish. So if you've got some friends that are willing to give you a helping hand, don't hesitate to take that help. Overall, I had a great experience wrapping my own vehicle, and although it did not turn out absolutely perfect, I still gained a new skill, and I feel confident that when it comes time to wrap this truck or any other vehicle later on down the road, I'll be able to take on that project again, hopefully making fewer mistakes the next time around. Hopefully the wrap will last me a while, but with how much it's probably going to get beaten up on the trails, I'm not sure how exactly that's going to work out for me. If you have the money or simply don't have the time, you want to take it to a shop to have it professionally wrapped, go for it. Nobody's going to judge you. I've done everything to this truck minus the welding myself, and this is just another project that I wanted to take on myself. And I have zero regrets in doing so. I simply want to encourage others, especially in the overland and the off-roading community, to build a connection with their vehicle, learn and understand their vehicle, and gain a new skill, as it will heavily benefit them down the road, or more specifically down the trail, as it already has me. Alright guys, and that's a wrap. If you enjoyed watching this video or found this video helpful, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. If you are a professional watching this video, constructive criticism is more than welcome. Feel free to leave your advice in the comments down below. If you enjoy watching content like this and want to follow along with us on our other adventures, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and follow me on social media. If you have any specific questions, don't hesitate to leave them down in the comments below. Shoot me an email or shoot me a DM on Instagram. As always guys, have fun, be safe, tread lightly, and I'll see you all out on the trails.